The Belt Road Initiative is likely to promote international trade for member countries. Quality infrastructure and lower trade barriers, such as lower tariffs, simplified customs clearance, would enhance trade flows and expand the regional production network. Now, let us apply some basic economic concepts to understand the trade patterns of the Belt Road countries.
Comparative advantage is the fundamental force that drives international trade. What is a national comparative advantage? It is measured by opportunity cost. Let's use Thailand and China as an example. Suppose that in Thailand, each employed person can produce 447 units of agricultural goods, or 541 units of manufactured goods. In China, each employed person can produce 1,175 units of agricultural goods, or 7,000 units of manufactured goods. How do we compute the opportunity cost for each country? For Thailand, the opportunity cost of producing an extra unit of manufactured goods is 0.83 units of agricultural goods foregone. For China, the opportunity cost of producing an extra unit of manufactured goods is 0.17 units of agricultural goods foregone. Can you attempt this question? The proposed deal between China and Thailand is based on the patterns of comparative advantage. China imports rice not only from Thailand, but also from countries such as Vietnam and Pakistan.
Relative abundance of a resource suggests that its relative cost is lower than in countries where it is relatively scarce. In other words, a large supply implies a low price. For example, labor is relatively cheaper in a labor-abundant country than in a labor-scarce country. A labor-abundant country will use more of its cheaper labor to produce output. This means that the country will produce and export labor-intensive products, such as textile and clothing. To determine whether a country is relatively capital or labor-abundant compared to another country, we cannot simply look at the units of capital or labor that countries have. We have to compute the capital to labor ratio to determine the relative abundance of capital and labor in that country. The table shows that an average worker in Bangladesh has about 25,000 US dollars worth of capital, such as machines and electricity, to work with. In contrast, an average Chinese worker can operate 87,000 US dollars worth of capital input. Given that China has a higher capital to labor ratio than Bangladesh, China is relatively capital abundant relative to Bangladesh. The other side of the same coin, we automatically know that Bangladesh is the relatively labor-abundant country compared to China, because Bangladesh has a higher labor-to-capital ratio, which is the inverse of the capital-to-labor ratio. Let's try answering this question. The relatively labor-abundant country thus produces and exports labor-intensive products. We expect Bangladesh to export products such as textile and clothing. The relatively capital-abundant country thus produces and exports capital-intensive products. We expect China to export cement, steel, and other manufactured inputs that are required for infrastructure projects. A phenomenon that has been grabbing international headlines in recent years is the movement of Chinese products up the product value chain. Due to the increase in Chinese labor standards and wages, and the availability of higher skilled jobs, many factories in coastal China have been moving into interior China or to nearby Asian countries. China seems to be slowly losing its comparative advantage in producing low-cost, low-value products. It has no choice but to move up the product chain and produce more sophisticated manufactured goods. The empirical data support such news headlines in our observations. The export tables tell us that in 2015, Bangladesh's top exports to China were concentrated in a labor-intensive industry, namely apparel. As expected, China's top exports to Bangladesh were in the capital-intensive industries, such as iron and steel. Another example is Indonesia. Its rich endowment in natural resources favors its export of such products. Indonesia is the largest exporter of palm oil products in the world because of its abundance in palm trees. From the map, we can see that China is the main importer of Indonesian palm oil products.